Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and thank you for coming back. And if you're new here, welcome and I hope you subscribe. So if you like this video, give it a like and of course subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. I know I've said that, but I'm just saying it again. So today, as promised, we're going to talk about pre-registration. So I'm going to have two videos on this. So today's video is going to focus on how to apply, what to expect, etc. The next video will be about my experience as a non-EEA OSPAP student doing the pre-registration, okay? So that will be a separate video because I think that will be really interesting. So before I get on with the video, I just want to say that my mic, as you might have noticed, is not here. It's having issues and that's caused a delay even in filming this video. It's given me such an annoying time. I'm just hoping that I'll be able to fix it, but I didn't want to have any delays and that's why I wanted to do this video regardless. So hopefully the sound quality is fine because I'm just filming with the normal sound that comes with the camera and I hope I can fix it. So let's get into the video. So as I already mentioned in some of my previous videos, again, I will link everything in the description box and I also put some playlists so you can watch. I talked about the journey of becoming a UK pharmacist, especially if you're coming from a non-EEA country via the OSPAP program. So the first step obviously is getting your documents to GPHC for the adjudication and completing the OSPAP and then doing your pre-reg and obviously passing the registration exam. So the pre-reg is kind of the second step and usually that would happen once you finish your OSPAP course, okay? So as I have said in most of my videos, the important thing, actually the most important thing is actually planning your time very, very carefully. And I'm saying this because the timeline is a very tight one. And I find that people who are doing OSPAP sometimes miss out on getting pre-registration placements because they don't know when the placement applications are open, and because of that they miss out and then they just have to do their pre-reg placement in places that they might not want to. Okay, so that's why we're going to talk about that. Sorry, that's my phone. Okay, let's go back to the beginning because I think it's really important to just address this. If you want to do your OSPAP, let's say in 2021 September, which is when most schools open, I would highly recommend that you actually have all your documents, pass your IELTS, submit everything you want to submit to GPHC latest March of 2021. So March of the next year or the year that you're going to be starting that. And I say that because it means that you have enough time for, obviously you have visas to apply for, you have pre-reg placement to apply for, and so many other things to put into place. So if you do that latest by March, I mean, you can do it before March, but latest by March, that would really help you in organizing your time properly, just so you don't miss out on important placements, okay? GPHC, I believe, will still accept applications up until July, but honestly, you don't want to leave it till July. It's going to be too late because you would miss out on many things now. Whilst you're applying for your OSPAP, so whilst you're sending your documents to GPHC and applying to schools and stuff like that, just know that you have to also apply to the pre-reg placement at the same time. And this is the part that many people who are doing OSPAP don't realize, and they just focus so much on the OSPAP and then don't have any place to do their pre-reg placement. And I'll just give you like a timeline that I feel like if you follow it, you'd actually be fine. As I mentioned earlier, just make sure you have your documents sent to GPHC by March so that maybe they would answer by April because I think they only look at documents every month. So let's say you maybe March 30th, 2021 is when you have put all your documents to them, everything is all fine. By April, they might come back to you and say, yes, you're eligible to apply for OSPAP. And then you reach out to the schools or the schools reach out to you. Maybe around May, get your admission, get an unconditional offer and things like that. Because the pre-reg placements actually open. So the applications or, the site and the portal opens in June. Yes, June of before you've even started your OSPAP. So you probably start your OSPAP in September 2021. In June 2021, sometime in June, then the application portal opens. And if you haven't got your school admission at the time, you will not be able to register. So you can see why this is really important, okay? So that's just my kind of timeline that I feel like would be really good if you're applying for your OSPAP. It will just make sure you're not rushing and doing so many things, you know, haphazardly. It just means that you're doing things in time, you're relaxed, you're calm, and you're able to plan properly. Now let's go into the pre-reg. So pre-reg or pre-registration, as most people call it, is actually a 52-week placement, which you have to do once you complete your OSPAP. And it usually would start around July, August of the year after you've finished your OSPAP. So say you started your OSPAP September 2021, by July/August of 2022, you should be all ready to start your pre-reg as far as you have passed your OSPAP. Okay, so the pre-reg is the 52-week, is a whole year. You will do it in a training placement or a training provider that is approved by the GPHC. So that will be community pharmacy, that would be hospital, that would be some industry placements, and that will be GP practices, which are quite new. So you can do the whole 52-week in one of these placements. So you could choose hospital, community, GP practice. I don't think you can do 12 months. I don't think you can do the 52-week or 12 months in industry, because with GPHC you have to do patient facing, if that makes any sense. You have to do patient facing, I think, for at least 6 months. So industry can only be a split. So you can do all your placements in one training provider, or you can split it into two. So you could do half hospital, half community, or half hospital, half GP practice. It all depends, okay? Now, so you can decide to do that. It's all up to you. I did mine in just one place, and that was hospital. Now, the way to apply, there are various ways, but the most popular and the national way to apply is through the Oriel system. And now this Oriel system is new. Before I get into it, I just want to put it out there that in my own time, we didn't have Oriel. What we had was a similar structure. So it's more like a national thing where all the hospitals were on. So it was one portal, everybody applied. You could choose 4 hospitals, and I think you were able to rank it, I can't remember now, but you could choose up to 4 hospitals, and then they would invite you for an interview if they liked your application, and then they would organize all the recruitment by themselves. So each hospital did theirs. But in this new system, it's more of a national way, and it's kind of different. So everybody is in the same portal, and all the hospitals are there, including some community pharmacies and some GP practices are on there. So everybody is on there. And instead of the individual hospitals or community pharmacies or GP practices doing their own interview and recruitment process, it's done in one place. So there's just one, and then you can rank and choose your hospital, things like that. So as I said, I did not do this kind of place, but that wasn't the process. That was not the process during my time. But so that's what I'm saying. I'm not an expert in this new Oriel system, but I've had a quick look. I've had a little bit of research, and I've just looked at it. What I think I'll do is I'll put down reasonable, useful links in the description box. Please check, because it will give you more information on how the system works. But I'll just give you a very brief overview of how I think the system works. Remember, I didn't do this system. So the Oriel system is, as I said, a national portal for all pharmacy pre-registration applications. There are also medical professionals that can use it. I think foundation doctors and so many other things. I don't know. I think they've always used it, but it's only in the past maybe 3 years or 4 years since the pharmacy pre-register are able to go on Oriel system. So it's still quite new. In this portal, there is a timeline, which again, I will link it down below. It changes every year, but generally the portal opens in June of every year. Okay, so when it opens, you can go on and register. So you put your details so everybody can register. So if you're a current UK university graduate, so those doing the MPharm, they can register from when they're in their 3rd year, which is why obviously with OSPAP you have to do it before you enter the OSPAP. Or if you've already finished your OSPAP, you can still do it, but then that's going to be like a long delay because you're doing it a year in advance. Okay, so say you got on the portal in June 2021, the placement is not going to open, like you're not going to do your pre-reg until July 2022. So you're doing everything like a year in advance, as I explained earlier. So for OSPAP students, you can register there. There's like a whole list of things that you can put up. But one of the most important things that you need to put up is like a letter from your OSPAP university saying that you're going to be a student with them. This is why you should have had an offer from the university, because that would obviously be in that email or in a letter or something like that. And that is what will enable you apply for a pre-registration placement. If you don't have it by June, you will probably miss out on the Oriel system, but don't lose hope, because you can then apply to other smaller community pharmacies if you want to, but you can't. There will be no space in any hospitals because everyone is on the national recruitment system and most of the places would have been gone. Obviously, you can always contact them to find out if there are anything or if there are any other hospitals left if, you know, like you were late, but I don't know. They say very clearly on the website, late applications will not be accepted under any circumstances, okay? So I've looked at the system and I've imagined myself, if I was a pre-reg, what to look out for. So there's a whole, it's like a very different system, as I said earlier. So when you apply, okay, in June, when the whole thing opens and you can upload your profile, I think sometime in July or in August, I think July, they send you an invitation for something called an MMI. So that's the multiple mini interview, which is done in specific centers in the UK. I think there are about 6 or 7 places. I will put like a screenshot of where I think those places are. I'm sure it'll probably change every year. And with the whole, you know, pandemic going on, I don't really know what the system would be. Okay. So that will be there. You can then choose where you want to go to. And that's why it's important. If you already know what school you're going to, then you can kind of say, okay, fine, this is close to my school and it'll be easy for me to travel and, you know, stuff like that. Okay. So that's when the application is open for you to choose a slot for the MMIs, as I call it. Okay. So once you do that, there would also be another link that opens up. I think, or they'll send you another email later on for you to then choose slots for your situational judgment test and also a numeracy test. So basically you're doing 3 tests: the MMI, which is the multiple mini interview, and then the second one is the situational judgment test, and the third one is the numeracy test. The MMI is done on a separate day, and the situational judgment test and the numeracy test are done on a different day. But you do 2 of them on the same day, but yeah, you get what I mean. So, and the second, the situational and the numeracy test, they're done in test centers. So I think they usually use Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE is where we do driving tests here in the UK, and they do some other online tests in there. I think they use some of them for Life in the UK test. I don't know, but it's like a big test center. So you can choose a place that's kind of close to your school or wherever you're going to live in the UK. And I think you're not invited to any of this until September, which is good because it means that you would have actually come in for your OSPAP. So you will be in the UK, hopefully, when these tests go on. But if you haven't registered in June, and if you haven't chosen your slots in July/August, then you would not be able to go for it even in September when you come. So just take note of it. What I would advise now is that go on the Oriel system and just familiarize yourself with it. I would link it down below. There's also a handbook, which I'll link down below. It's for previous years, but if you read it and then it just gives you an idea, maybe around May, June, just go on the website, because then the applications will have opened, and it's a very narrow window, so you don't want to miss it out. Okay, so that's basically it. I mean, I didn't do MMI or any of the situational judgments and numeracy, but based on what I have gathered, it looks like once you finish those 3 tests, then you have a time to, I think in between that time, you can actually then start choosing the hospitals, and you have to rank it. So for example, I think there are 3 sections. So there is not wanted, there is no preference, and then there's preference. So you can choose the hospitals that you prefer, and you can rank them from number 1 being the one you really want. That's your first choice, second choice, third choice. And there's so many hospitals, there's so many community pharmacies, there's so many GP practices, there's so many. So you can rank that, and then you can put others in the middle or in the no preference, where you like them, but like you don't have any preference for them. And then the last one would be not wanted. You don't even want to go there at all. So that's how you kind of like filter it based on the training providers or placement providers you want to go to. Now, one thing to note, when you're looking or you're trying to choose, obviously you're going to be looking at location. Are you prepared to move from where you've done your OSPAP? The place you're moving to, is it an expensive place? Do you know people there? I think about accommodation, transportation, the actual move, like, because obviously you have a couple of things that you have to move yourself from where you're doing your OSPAP onto where you're going to be doing your pre-reg. So you need to consider that. But the most important thing to consider is obviously if the training providers have a tier 2 sponsorship license, and you would know because it says T2 on any of those. So you can filter it out. You can actually just filter all the providers to say you want to only look for the ones that have tier 2 sponsorship license, and you will need that because that's the only way you can switch from your tier 4 student visa to the tier 2 visa. Okay, and this is only for people who do the MSc version. As I've mentioned earlier, if you do the postgraduate diploma version, it's even stated in the handbook, you will not be able to switch your visa. So just use the MSc version just to be safe, okay? So at the end of everything, you are then ranked. Yes, you're ranked against everyone else in the UK, every other pharmacy student in the UK. So let's say there are like 1,000 pharmacy students that year who want to do the pre-reg next year. You're going to be ranked against them. So let's say you're number 100 of it. So that will be your rank. And this is based on how you performed in the situational judgment test and in the I think in the MMI. The numeracy test is not it's not scored. You can either just pass or fail. Okay. So they will give you a specific score. So for example, with the situational, maybe you can get 60%, or with the MMI, you can get maybe 50% or whatever. But the numeracy test, it's just pass or fail. If you fail it, it just kicks you out of the Oriel system. So you cannot proceed. So that's why make sure you're on top of your calculation. And the handbook gives you an example of what kind of calculations to expect in there. So yeah, I think a calculator is allowed, a specific type of calculator. Everything is in the handbook. Just familiarize yourself with it and read it, okay? So that's that. Once you're ranked and everything, then that's when you can then be provided with an offer to wherever you want to do your pre-reg, depending on your ranking. So this is the roughest way I can actually explain this. So let's say there were 2 of us, me and you, and out of the whole 1,000, I'm just using 1,000 as an example. Let's say out of 1,000 people, you ranked maybe 100 and I ranked 150. So you're above me. Okay. And you chose London Hospital, and I also chose London Hospital as my first choice. London Hospital will go to you because you were ranked higher than me and no one else. And let's say no one else above you wanted London Hospital. So you will get London Hospital. If that makes any sense. Like, this is just a rough example. So your choice, the way you can get your choice will depend on how many people are ranked above you who have chosen that same provider. So if there's no one and it's just you and no one above you has chosen that hospital, you will probably get that as your first choice. If other people have chosen it and they're ranked above you, they will get it. That's the simplest way to explain it. And after that, you choose, you can accept the offer, and that's it. And that's how you get your training provider. I know it's not the best explanation, and that's why you need to go on the website and just read it. And if you have any questions, to ask me, and then I would make some research and answer you back on that. So let's say you've got your pre-reg placement now. Obviously, you complete your OSPAP, and you need to pass your OSPAP for you to be able to proceed to your pre-registration. So as I said, it's a 52-week placement. You would do it in, like, for example, I did mine in a hospital. So you will do yours either in a community hospital or, GP practice or wherever you want to do it, okay? And you will have a tutor, and that is so important. Like, I actually had such a good tutor. Like, she was seriously amazing. I did mine in hospital. So you get a tutor. There are 78 standards or 76, either 76 or 78 standards, I can't remember, GPHC standards that you have to meet for you to pass your pre-reg. Okay, so your tutor is the one who's going to sign you up, and for you to pass these standards, you have to write evidences for it. So there's various standards. Maybe behaving in a professional way, you have to write one evidence. Or maybe let's say you're on the ward and you were speaking with a nurse and she asks you for something and you answer back, there's so many examples to do. I can talk about that later. Maybe when I do the second video on my own pre-reg experience, because you still have to meet all the standards, and you need to have evidences to show. And those evidences, you upload it to a system, and then your tutor on whoever witnessed you doing that standard that you're trying to claim for can actually pass you for that and say, yes, you have met the standard. So that's basically how it is. And you have to meet all of these standards. I think that's 7. As I said, I can't remember. Is it 76 or 78? But you need to meet all of them before you're allowed to even write your GPHC exam. And then you have appraisal. So you have a 13-week appraisal. I think there's 26-week, and there's 39-week, and obviously there's the final appraisal. So I think at the 39-week one, that's when you're then allowed to register for the GPHC professional exam. Yes, because your tutor has to kind of give you, give a confirmation that they're happy for you to proceed to write the exam, because they're satisfied with your progress, and they know that you'll be able to meet the rest, before the exam and after the exam, that sort of thing, because you have to apply for the registration exam, and also to apply for the pre-registration placement. I think you have to apply to GPHC as well for that. So that's what you have to do. And once you pass your pre-reg, obviously, you'll be signed off by your tutor, you write your registration exam, and that is you done. You will become a pharmacist. I hope this was slightly helpful. Honestly, I wish I had a whole lot more information, especially about the application process, because I feel like that will be what people will be a bit, concerned about. Because once you get into pre-reg, you'll be fine. But in my next video, where I talk about my experience, I will break it down and tell you, how I found it, what we did in the hospital I worked in. I had, I think 10 or 11 other pre-regs, which was amazing. We're such a good team. We had mock exams almost every month. And then we had training days like every Wednesday, half day. So it was a really good one, and it was amazing. And my hospital where I did it in, they always had 100% pass rates. So we just needed to pass. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So the main thing to remember is the timeline. Make sure you apply. If by some chance you've missed out on Oriel, you can then apply to smaller community pharmacies. You can go to them and, as a student, and say, look, I'm an OSPF student, I'm applying for my pre-reg. You can go approach them and see if they will be willing to take you. But it's so much harder doing that as opposed to if you're in the national recruitment system. So aim to actually meet that deadline so you can apply through the system. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this was useful in some sort of way. Stick around for my next video, which will be talking about my pre-reg training and placement, and how I found it, and how it helped me pass the exam. And of course, I'll do a video on the GPHC exam, what I did, how to pass, some steps, and I'll also show you some books that were useful to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.